So Rawson, Central Intelligence, was it always in your mind to bring Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart together on screen?
No, I don't think so. I mean, originally the script written by Ike Barinholtz and David Stassen had a very different joke at its center. The idea was the character of Bob, which ended up being played by Dwayne Johnson, was sort of a heavyset weirdo in high school, and then at the reunion, he's still a heavyset weirdo, but he happens to be an assassin in the CIA. So the joke there was kind of like Fat Jason Bourne was the joke, right? It's a totally legitimate joke.
It's a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke, right? But then when Dwayne said he wanted to do a comedy, he liked my last one, he wanted to do this one, and this big sort of cartoon light bulb went off over my head where I was like, of course, right? Of course, if you were, if you were overweight and picked on in high school, of course you would transform yourself into The Rock, right? You would look like a Superman coming back, but on the inside you'd still have all the same insecurities, and that just seemed like such a delicious idea.
And the involvement of Kevin Hart then, I mean,
sure.
He obviously plays the heart of the film, to use the pun.
Well played.
What is it about him that kind of brings that out? Because I think a lot of the audience can identify with him in a lot of ways.
Sure. Well, so when Dwayne came on, he said, I had this great idea for who should play the straight man opposite me. And I said, great, who? And he said, Kevin Hart. And I was like, I love Kevin Hart. I mean, he's great. He's really funny, though. I mean, he's not really a straight man. And Dwayne said, I know. No one will be expecting it. And that's what we did in Central Intelligence, right? We took the biggest action star in the world, Dwayne Johnson. We made him the funny guy. And we took one of the funniest people in the world, Kevin Hart, and made him the straight man. And I think that's what gives it its kind of fresh feel. So it was not the original plan, but it is absolutely the best plan I could think of now.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned some of the action. Is this the first time you directed so many big action sequences?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've loved action movies since I was a kid, and I've always wanted to make one. And so after my last movie, which was a comedy called We're the Millers, I wanted to do an action comedy next because I figured if I did an action comedy next, at least I would know how to do half of it, and I figured I could learn the other half. And I loved shooting the action on this. It was so relaxing, so much easier than comedy.
So what are the challenges of comedy then? Because you've done comedy before, like you mentioned in Dodgeball and We Are the Millers. So why is it so difficult to do?
That's a great question. I wish I had a pithy answer for why it's so hard to do. I think it's just, I think comedy is so subjective that you never really know if it's going to work until you put it up and learn the hard way, right? Anybody who knows anything about comedy will tell you that they don't know anything about comedy, which is to say you don't know until you do it, right? And so stand-up comics will take 18 months to get, a good 15-minute routine. And that's what we do with a picture like this. You try to make yourself laugh first, so I write the script and I'm trying to make myself laugh at the keyboard, which is super weird. And then on set you try to stay open to different ideas, and you hire really funny people to help you, and you just do your best. And then you put it together, and then you show it to an audience, and they will tell you. Believe me, they will tell you if it's funny or not.
Dwayne Johnson, I think, was the biggest movie star in the world last year, and I suspect he'll probably be this year as well.
Sure.
Is that pressure for you, having someone who's such a big icon in your movie?
Yeah, that's the first time anybody's asked me that. And because if this movie doesn't work, if Central Intelligence doesn't work, no one is going to say, met Dwayne Johnson, not a star. Or, and they're not going to say, Kevin Hart, not funny. That falls here, and that's my responsibility. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain healthy amount of pressure there, but every time you're making a movie, in the studio system, they expect it to be a success. So there's always pressure. But the great part is when you have Kevin and Dwayne, those guys are so hardworking and so dedicated and collaborative that you never really feel that pressure from them, at least.
You've obviously potential for sequel on this film. Some of your earlier films as well, there's been talk of Dodgeball 2 and We Are the Millers 2 as well. Is that what you're looking to do next, or is it something completely different that you're planning on?
Thank you. No, the next thing I'm going to be doing is something actually Dwayne and I just sold last week called Skyscraper. It's a disaster picture set in China. So I'm going to be doing a big kind of disaster picture next, and then I hope to do another comedy if I can.
Excellent. And where are we with the Choose Your Own Adventure film that was talked about at one point?
Oh yeah, gosh, I wish I had a good update on that. I think it's sort of stalled at Fox. I'm not quite sure what they're doing with it, and I think they might be sort of taking it apart and trying to put it back together with a different group.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and really enjoyed this one.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!